Welcome to MedShark Insider with Bill Fukui, your expert host on all things medical marketing and SEO.
Hi, everybody. I want to welcome you to another episode of MedShark Insider. And today we're going to be talking about a slightly different topic. It is about profitability in practices. And I'm going to introduce Jed Wunderli. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly, Jed?
You are. Thanks, Bill.
Super. And Jed has some insights that I think is different than the traditional digital marketing or advertising, consulting kinds of things. His background is a little varied, but I think he has an opportunity that a lot of our clients, as well as attendees to this webinar would qualify for and would have great interest in. So, number one, I want to welcome you today, Jed.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, a little bit of background for our audience. I met Jed at a cosmetic meeting over at Vegas Cosmetic, and had a great time. Learned a lot about kind of what he does, and we kind of hit it off. I had a great time there, Jed.
As did I. It was great meeting you, and meeting good quality people is always a good thing to do.
Yeah. So, do me a favor, and I kind of learned a little bit about your background, but why don't you go ahead and share a little bit of who you are, and what you do, and then we can kind of jump into some of the opportunities for some of our clients.
You got it. So, Bill, I've been involved in the financial industry for probably about 30 plus years now. I started off as a Series 7 licensed representative with Fidelity Investments. Did that for about 2.5 years. Really loved it, and of course, I grew up watching my dad invest in stocks and charting stocks and things like that, which piqued my interest. And so when I got the opportunity to work for Fidelity, I jumped at it. And then from there, I was looking at other opportunities. Like I did mortgages for about 27 years or so. And the background I got from Fidelity, between all the stuff you have to study to be, get your Series 7 and then talk about with clients and whatnot, gave me a lot of great knowledge for my own personal investing that I do to help prepare for retirement. Mm-hmm. And with that, I always kind of had that in my mind when I would work with mortgage clients is, trying to help them, encourage them to invest and to do, be wise with their finances so that they can prepare for retirement. And one day out of the blue, a little over a year ago, I got a call from the principal of Acquire Tax Credits, and he wanted to interview me and, the mortgage business because rates were going up was a little bit on the slow side. And he piqued my interest talking about, tax credits and dealing with professionals, doctors of all types and whatnot. And so I thought of it as a great opportunity to work with people who would be open and receptive to, seeing how we can save them significant amounts of money with the tax credit. And then also, they'd be people that would have the opportunity to be able to, take some of the advice that we offer and the plans that we work on with them to be able to set themselves up for a successful retirement.
Oh, that sounds great. Hey, you had mentioned, tax credits and, a significant amount. When you say significant amount in terms of tax credits, and that may be different than say tax write-offs and stuff, right? So that
correct.
There, correct?
Yeah, a big difference between a deduction and a credit. Credit is dollar for dollar. And what we found, well, first of all, the first time that we work with a doctor on their tax credits, we typically, there's sometimes that we don't just for various reasons, but more often than not, we typically work on the current tax year. Like, so right now here in the middle of 2023, doctors who haven't filed their 2022s, because many of them file, on the late period. We're still working on 22 as the current year. And then we also typically go back and grab help amend as many years as we can. And so depending on when they filed their 19, we might still be able to get 19 done, but also 20 and 21. So what we've seen is that when I say significant, it's like that's a different number for everybody in their head.
Yeah.
And so to try to quantify that, if for a doctor that has maybe $1 million in gross revenue annually, we're looking at probably somewhere around 170 to 250, somewhere in that ballpark for their first tax credit with all those years in there. And for bigger offices, like I did a tax credit for a general dentist that I met at the AGD last year. It was my first conference that I went to. And their gross revenue was about 2.1 million. And, we ended up doing computing that their tax credit based on all the information that we got from them was about somewhere in the 350 to 370 range.
Wow.
So significant. That's my significance.
Hey, no, you know what? I don't think there's anybody watching this program that would not consider that significant dollars, right?
Now that number can vary quite a bit because the way it's quantified is it's based on the wages of the doctors and their assistants involved in each qualified research activity, as well as the supply costs. And so, if you're working with a doctor who pays themselves a rather high wage, they're obviously going to have a lot more of a credit than somebody who kind of minimizes the wage that they're paid and takes it in distributions instead. So,
yeah, no, I think so let's maybe get into a little bit more of this tax credit. What is it that qualifies somebody to get a tax credit? And what kind of due diligence or the research that you guys need to do in order for, a client to submit and have any expectations of qualifying for the tax credits?
Okay, great question. So let me, maybe I should start off with a little background as to, a lot of people say, here, research and experimentation tax credit. And a lot of times, they're thinking about, well, I did that when I was in college, when I was going to med school and whatnot. And it's not the laboratory kind of a research. It's more of, what are you doing at your practice to be innovative, to always be trying to improve patient care. So just a little history on the tax credit. In 1981, the Congress, came out with the tax credit for companies like, big pharma, who are trying to find cures for cancer and heart disease and, major medical things like that. And over the years, what they found is that, hey, we'd like to maybe modify this, the tax credit, so that smaller businesses can take advantage of this. So in 2003, they made a change that went from new to the world to new to the practice or business. And then in 2015, the PATH Act was passed. And in the PATH Act, they had the IRS 4-part test. And with the IRS 4-part test, we're able to say, okay, if you meet these 4 things, then that specific activity would qualify. And what we found is that most doctors who aren't too specialized, like if you're an endodontist and all you do is that, then you're probably going to have one activity. But for a general dentist or, many others that have 4, 5, 6, 10 services, and they're always doing things to try to improve patient care within each of those services, they're probably going to have as many qualified research activities and of course, all the related expenses that go along with that.
So kind of put that into perspective for maybe not dentistry, but what about, say, plastic surgery, dermatology, med spa types of, situations?
Absolutely.
a menu
Yes.
of different technologies and services. I think this is probably one of the biggest growing areas for most, say, board certified plastic surgeons, is to really grow the non-surgical aesthetic side of the business.
Yes, yes.
And that
So,
kind of stuff.
so we have a number of clients who are plastic / cosmetic surgeons. And I've got, it's almost like that's become my specialty. I somehow wind up with a bunch of them and gone to a number of the conferences, and love working with them, and trying to put some of the things that I'm learning into practice myself, so that I don't look a lot older than my wife does. But so yes, we have, for instance, I have a client who is a plastic surgeon out of San Diego. He specializes in the head and the neck. And he had 12 qualified research activities. And his annual, his annual credit is about 170,000. Now he's got a fairly large practice. And that's just his part. He's got an associate doctor that does the body, and we've got, something else going for that. But, you talked about med spas. I have a client who I met at a conference, one of the many, conferences for, cosmetics that I've been to. And she's in Florida, and she has two med spas. And we just did finish her tax credit about 3 weeks ago or so. And she got a credit, look, for about 2.5 years, 3 years of credits for a little over 200,000. So, that's a great way when you have a credit that size or anywhere close that's significant. It's a great way to be able to, one, either do a little something fun with it for yourself, or be able to put it back into your business, get that next level piece of equipment that's going to improve your patient care. Because the main question that we ask is, have you done anything in the last 3 to 5 years within your practice to improve patient care? So what we're looking for is doctors who are always trying to stay at the cutting edge. And when I go on people's websites, when I go on the doctors' websites, and I see that, hey, we have the latest technology, we're on the cutting edge, we're at the forefront of technology, all those kind of things, that makes me think right off the bat that they're going to have qualified research activities, because they are doing what they can to improve that patient care.
And I think in the true spirit of the tax credit, it really is just that. It's not necessarily, oh, how can I pocket more money? It is, what can we do to build practices that are, innovative, that's offering more things, and to provide some financial resources for you to make those investments. Because we all know that, when we're investing in $150,000, piece of equipment, whether it's a laser, ultrasound, whatever technology it is, it's a barrier for practices, right? So if it allows us to expand our repertoire of offerings, of building more lifetime patients into the practice, I think all of those things, I think it's a great opportunity to do those things. Not just, oh, well, I get some extra money here. It really is, what can we do to rebuild and retool our practice and grow it in ways that, we probably wouldn't do otherwise.
Well, Bill, that's exactly right. And that's kind of one of my favorite things about what I do, is that, once they get a taste of, for instance, if a doctor has a tax credit of 400,000, he can buy 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of expensive equipment and really, change what he's able to do, improve what he's able to do in a significant way for his patients. including not just improving current activities and services that he's providing, but maybe adding some new ones. And when you get the bug, like we've, had doctors now that have been with us for a number of years. Now, again, this is like you asked about the history. For this kind of tax credit, it's relatively new because it came out, with the PATH Act in 2015. But when you get doctors now seeing how much they can get back in the form of a tax credit because they are trying to improve their patient care, what they can do for their patients, then they're thinking, okay, next year I'm going to get roughly, if my tax credit this year was 170 for this 1 year, I should get another 170, give or take, back next year, and then I can get this piece of equipment. And so it's like a bug almost. It's just a great incentive, and that's what Congress's, their intent was to incentivize doctors to be able to, and people that own med spas, everybody, medical professionals who are trying to help, their patients with a variety of needs, whether it's cosmetic or whether it's, purely for health reasons or whatever. All of those things qualify. And last year, toward the end of last year, the Congressional Budget Office came out and said, look, our budget's about $55.8 billion a year. And last year, we only utilized about 8.8 billion of that. And so they implored us to, to utilize more of that so that their budget's not cut, because we all know that if we're not utilizing the budget, then Congress is going to want to decrease that and, put it somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's and I was surprised when you kind of mentioned it to me, you brought this up to my attention, first time I ever heard about it. So it really is more of it's not that physicians or entrepreneurs aren't looking to take advantage, they just don't know. Right.
And that's a very common reaction we get, and a lot of them say, well, we're not doing any research in our business. And it's like, well, think of it this way. Are you making iterative modifications, just small modifications to any of your services that you offer your patients, whereby with the intent of improving the outcome for that patient? And if you're doing that, then you would qualify under the IRS 4-part test that was implemented with the PATH Act in 2015 for the tax credit. And then it's just a matter of monetizing it by seeing what the wages are of all the people involved in the specific qualified research activities, as well as, whatever, supply expenses are involved in that. And it includes, like the wage expense includes also doctors who have like associate doctors but aren't W-2, they 1099 them, that kind of thing. It's
Right.
contract expenses. So really there's and that's very common for us to have doctors that, one, are either paying other doctors in their practice W-2, or in many cases is 1099. So they can take advantage of all of those things that way. And doctors who are looking for ways to improve, the outcomes for their patients those are the ones that, this credit is for.
Right. Okay. So let's say I got a practice and I'm looking at, man, they're attending conferences, they're investing in new technologies, they want to add pages on new services that they're, we need a page on this new laser or on this new treatment, those kinds of things. Those are obviously, documented great opportunities for this. What's the time frame? What is, if somebody's interested in taking advantage of it, how long does this process take to go through? What's the expectation?
Well, so because of the way we do it, it's not super fast. We work with two different tax attorneys, and they both, well, the one specializes in defending research and experimentation tax credits, and the other one is a tax attorney who is a CPA beforehand and very knowledgeable. And so we've done a lot of consulting with them. And what we found is that in order to make sure that we do it right and that they're protected. Now, the audit rate for doing the credit is according to Moss Adams, who's a big CPA firm, they said it's about the same as an S Corp. So it's not a super high, it's very vanilla. Most of the numbers, even the big ones, aren't big enough to really, like get the light going and getting the excitement going for IRS agents. We've had a couple of clients of ours who have gotten audited, and because of the report that we produce, our report is designed to address every hot point that the IRS looks at in an audit of a research and experimentation tax credit. So we spell it out for them very clearly of how each activity qualifies as a research activity. And so we haven't had any issues yet with any of that, but the tax attorneys have told us how important it is for proper substantiation. So we have a medical writing staff who interviews them. It starts off with an interview from me where I can get some mostly basic information from them relative to what they're doing that they've changed over the last 3 to 5 years. Because if they're doing the same thing that they've been doing exactly the same thing for the last 10 years, then they're not going to qualify. But even if they're making just little changes, and when they buy a nice piece of equipment and now they're using that for some services and whatnot, that's obviously going to qualify. But it's also then 3 years down the road when they upgrade the software or a new piece comes out for that equipment to help it do more things or other things better or whatever, that also starts the clock over again. So most of the studies that we do are 3 to 5 years, 5 years for the bigger things. And so it's important to note that we go through that interview process with me initially and the doctor, talking about what are these services that you offer? Have you made iterative modifications in that might qualify for a research activity? And then we look at all those things that they give us and see if it passes the 4-part test. At that point, once he and I or she and I are done talking for the first time, I'm going to have them, we'll send an email where they give us permission to talk to their CPA, because we want to make sure the CPA is familiar with this and that they understand how it works and what we do and that type of thing. Because we need to get, typically some documents from the CPA, documents from their bookkeeper, for, payroll and, the supply expenses and things like that. And then they have one more interview. We try to keep the total time for the doctor down, somewhere between 2 hours and 15 minutes to 3 hours, because we want it to be us doing the work. We want them focusing on what they do best. But we do need to get, certain information from them so that we can make sure that we, 1, maximize their tax credit, and 2, do it right so that it's defensible in case they do, have an audit come up. Both of the audits I was talking about before, it was a general audit. And when they do a general audit, they look at everything within that tax return and passed with flying colors. So, after we've talked to the CPA, then there's an interview with our medical writing staff and our analyst, and they write a great report. None of it's ever, cookie cutter kind of stuff. It's not boilerplate. Each report is written specifically for that doctor and the services that he or she provides. And our analyst makes sure that the numbers are accurate. And then from there, once we're done, we review everything with the doctor, make sure they feel good about it. And then from there, it's, let's start the process to getting that money back for them.
Okay. So listening to you, in terms, because I'm not as familiar with this, it's not something that a doctor or practice should, go to their CPA, their current tax, and talk to them about doing this, because they're not going to be familiar with documentation and other things associated with it. So it's not something that you would recommend just, I'll just have my tax guy take care of this, look into this.
Oh, that's a great question and a great point. The CPAs are a lot more familiar with tax credits from a manufacturing side. And what we've found, and I can't tell you how many different CPAs I've spoken with who have thanked me and Acquire and the team that I work with for, and lots of credit to my team, because I got a great team that makes everybody look good. But they've thanked us for being able to have the special, the expertise to be able to do these things, because one, it takes a lot of manpower and hours to produce the kind of report that we do to substantiate the credit. And then the other thing is that, CPAs, they're working on tax returns nonstop, right on through September and October for those filing late. And they just don't have time to document things, nor do they typically have the manpower or expertise to do that kind of thing. So I had delivered a report to a CPA, and we, with the CPAs, we also provide the 6765, which is a form that has the numbers that they need to amend prior year's return. They just take it off that form and go ahead and put it in their software, and then it's pretty easy for them at that point. But what we also do is provide the IRS summary sheet. So we try to make it as easy for the CPA as possible. And so what happens is the CPAs that I've talked to recently, when we've delivered those items and a copy of the report as well, they saw that. And one guy said to me, he's like, "Holy cow," he says, "I was already very impressed with everything that I was seeing out of you, and your follow-up and you're hearing, talking to my client and what they were saying." But when he saw the report, he's like, "Yeah, I'd have no problem defending the tax credit with the IRS in an audit." And we've gotten that numerous times. In fact, we found one of our tax attorneys, because a client of ours they had a very large practice. They were getting a $4 million tax credit. And he said, "This is great, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to get in trouble with the IRS." So
right.
He says, "I want to have a tax attorney review this report and kind of sign off on it and give me the okay." So he found this tax attorney, one of the ones that we use. And he says he had him review it, paid the tax attorney on his own dollar. And the tax attorney contacted us and said, "Hey, if I had this report, I would never lose a case." And so I've heard that a few times, and it's always very satisfying. It doesn't get old. And it's, it just verifies what I already think about our medical writing staff, that they do a heck of a job. I'm happy to share a sample report that we have with any of your folks listening to this, so that they can see, and we show that, and along with a couple of other things in our initial interview, giving them the background of this whole process. So,
well, that sounds great. Do me a favor, Jed. You've been great about sharing a lot of the details, some of the ins and outs of this research and development, tax credit. If somebody is interested to maybe look into this, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can call me on my cell, or they can text me at 702-812-1214. When we actually talk on, have our initial interview, I do that on my office phone, because we want to record everything so that we make sure we get all the facts straight. And my writing team likes that, so that they can go back and listen to it and make sure that I didn't miss anything. The other way they can get a hold of me is jed@acquirewc.com, which is ACQUIREWC for Wealth Collective.com.
Super. And then for information, is there what kind of business name, the website, how can they kind of learn more?
Yeah, so we have a nice little web page they can go to that gives a nice little background on the tax credit, and answers hopefully some questions for them. I'm not a super pushy salesman kind of guy, so I just love talking about it because with people, because I believe in it. But I'm not some people would think I shouldn't be a salesman because I'm so not pushy, but I'm happy for them to call me and I'll answer any questions. But if they wanted to go to a website, it's www.acquiretaxcredits.com.
Okay.
And a lot of information there as well.
Well, that sounds great. And thank you again for sharing this information. I know this is different than a lot of the other webinars and information that we've shared, which is more marketing related, but I think that it kind of goes hand in hand. As long as we're helping practices be more profitable, so they can continue to invest not only just in technology, but in marketing. I mean, our goal is to help practices be able to have the opportunities of choice, right? We want to give them choices, and if you don't have the financial opportunity to do it, you're limited in the choices that you're able to make. It's kind of like what I tell my kids. We work hard, we do things up front so that we can enjoy the choices that we're allotted in life. Because if you don't have choices, life isn't a lot of fun.
Right. Bill, you make a great point. I don't want to, hold you too much longer, but I think that what you just said is gold, because when we're able to free up a significant amount of money, whatever that may be for a practice, and it's going to vary widely depending on, one, the size of the practice, and two, the wages and the supply expense, all that kind of stuff. But whatever significant amount of money we can free up, it's going to do a couple of things. One, if for people who want to grow their practice, they can take part of that and reinvest it with you to help them get more clients, which grows their revenue base, to allow them to have a larger tax credit, to get more state-of-the-art equipment, to get more state-of-the-art training for them and their staff, so that ultimately they can grow their practice even further. And what I like to see is the docs who are most concerned about improving that patient care grow, so they can serve more clients, because the more people who get the best care, the better off we are.
And at the end of the day, as much marketing as I say, as much as my business is in marketing, it's good practices build their practices from the inside out, and it is through referrals, and you get referrals with great outcomes, and you get the best outcomes when you have the best protocols and, quite frankly, the best technology. So all works together, my friend. So
right on.
Yeah. Thank you again for joining me today, Jed, and for all the great information. And I'll be posting this and sharing this with others, and hopefully we can spread the word about the opportunities here.
Hey, Bill, I appreciate your time and appreciate you having me, and I hope that we can help lots of people grow their practice with our team effort here.
That sounds great. Have a great day, Jed.
You do the same, Bill. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for the MedShark Insider with Bill Fukui. Join us next week for another dive into all things medical marketing. All episodes can be streamed at www.medsharkdigital.com/MedShark-Insider.